Europe's economic downturn has recently become a major topic in the news. From changes in consumption habits to significant shifts in GDP, the signs of Europe's impoverishment are hard to ignore. Let's explore the core reasons behind this trend. On July 17, 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Europeans are facing a new economic reality that they have not experienced in decades, leading to their impoverishment. The extent of Europe's impoverishment is evident in changing consumption patterns. For instance, the Wall Street Journal reported that the French have reduced their consumption of foie gras and red wine. Spaniards are conserving olive oil. In Finland, there is talk of using saunas on windy days when wind turbines can operate, and across Germany, the consumption of meat and dairy products has dropped to its lowest level in 30 years. This seemingly satirical report is not encouraging. For example, the number of users across Europe of the app, Too Good To Go, which sells leftover food from stores and restaurants, has recently surged to 76 million, 3 times the number at the end of 2020. As prices have risen without corresponding wage increases, many Europeans are now purchasing food to reduce their expenses. This trend is not confined to low-income groups. Even the middle class is cutting back on consumption. Even in Brussels, one of Europe's wealthiest cities, people are lining up at supermarkets for cheaper food. A representative from Happy Hour Market, which sells food close to its expiration date at half price, said, "Some customers have told us that thanks to our products, they can eat meat 2 to 3 times a week." Expenditure on luxury items like meat has significantly decreased. In 2022, Germany's per capita meat consumption was about 115 pounds, an 8% decrease from the previous year, marking the lowest level since 1989. According to the German Federal Information Center for Agriculture, after meat prices spiked by 30%, Germans began buying cheaper meats like chicken instead of more expensive options like beef and pork. Europeans are cutting back on spending not only on food but also on travel. According to the Chamber of Commerce in Mallorca, located in the Mediterranean, Americans spend an average of €260 per day on hotels, while Europeans spend €180. The economic downturn in Europe and the resulting decline in consumption can be observed in the data. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development analyzed that even when considering inflation, private consumption in the 20 Eurozone countries has decreased from the end of 2019 to the present. This is in stark contrast to the 9% increase in private consumption in the United States over the same period. Furthermore, a report from the Center for European Policy Studies, an independent think tank based in Brussels, predicted that if current trends continue, by 2035, the GDP per capita gap between the United States and the European Union will be as large as the current gap between Japan and Ecuador. According to the International Monetary Fund, based on 2020 data, the GDP of the United States was approximately $25.5 trillion, while the GDP of the EU was $16.6 trillion. Even when combining the GDPs of the 27 EU countries, it amounts to only about 65% of the United States GDP. Moreover, California, the state with the highest GDP in the United States, has a GDP higher than that of the United Kingdom. This indicates that Europe, which once led the global economy alongside the United States, is now facing a significant economic disparity compared to the United States. Despite Europe's economic decline, there are still many countries in the world poorer than Europe. According to the IMF's nominal GDP list, Italy, France, the United Kingdom, and Germany are all within the top 10. The key point is that the West, which seemed poised for perpetual prosperity, is now, excluding the United States, in decline. The post-World War II expectation that the West would grow together has not materialized. Europe is currently referred to as a digital colony of the United States, and last year, Germany's economy fell into negative growth. Real wages have declined, and there is no guarantee of future growth. Until about 10 years ago, the center of the global economy was the United States, China, and Europe. Scholars are suggesting that the period of economic center shifts is approaching. While the United States continues to rise indefinitely with Nasdaq, the struggling economies of Europe and China suggest the emergence of a new center. A look at the changes in the global top 500 companies shows that while the number of American companies has increased, the number of British companies has decreased from 26 to 15 in the past 10 years, French companies from 31 to 24, and Italian companies from 8 to 5. So, what are the reasons behind Europe's regression? Various external factors such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, interest rate hikes, price increases, and wage declines play a role, but the fundamental issues are all internal. External problems can potentially be resolved during an economic boom cycle, but internal issues mean that the causes lie within Europe, and unless resolved internally, Europe's stagnation or regression cannot be prevented. One internal factor is the decline in productivity due to decades of aging populations. All advanced countries around the world are experiencing low birth rates and aging populations. Documentaries occasionally highlight Europe's success stories in combating low birth rates. But these are often small countries with populations under 5 million and welfare paradises. Even these examples can only be said to have slightly increased birth rates, not completely solve the problem of low birth rates. A birth rate below 2.1 is considered low, so to maintain the population, the birth rate must reach 2.1. Europe has been an advanced region for a long time, meaning it has been experiencing low birth rates for a long time. Additionally, with the decline in long-term business travel and advances in medicine, allowing for longer lifespans, it is currently understood that half of Europe's population is over 44.5 years old. Inevitably, this has led to a shortage of labor. In 2023, Germany's Vice-Chancellor and Minister for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, Robert Habeck, emphasized that to solve the problem of population decline, there must be a significant increase in the immigration of skilled foreign workers. Similarly, Spain's Secretary of Social Security stated that most OECD countries are facing labor shortages, and that the situation is likely to worsen in the future. Despite the inevitable social issues, European countries, particularly Germany, have accepted many immigrants and refugees due to declining birth rates and an aging population. Although many European countries actively promoted the influx of migrant workers, Europe's immigration policy has essentially concluded in failure. Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel stated at a Christian Democratic Union Youth Party gathering that the multicultural concept of people from diverse cultural backgrounds living together does not function, revealing that the attempt to build a multicultural society had completely failed. David Cameron, who served as the UK's Prime Minister from 2000 to 2016, declared that British-style multiculturalism, where different cultures coexist independently, could not develop within British values. Similarly, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy openly stated that multiculturalism policy had failed in France. The economic gains from the influx of immigrants were overshadowed by social conflicts between immigrants and natives and issues of reverse discrimination against natives. So, what about the United States? As of 2023, the U.S. birth rate stands at 1.6, indicating a trend of declining birth rates. However, since the U.S. is fundamentally a nation of immigrants, it attracts many migrants. The business travel rate is low due to the high number of immigrants, and most immigrants are young, making the issue irrelevant. The U.S. also faces social issues such as cultural clashes with immigrants, but the losses are not greater than the gains. This is because the quality of immigrants is different. Through policy, the U.S. actively attracts talent in the so-called STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, resulting in a high proportion of highly skilled workers. In contrast, a significant portion of immigrants in Europe are unskilled workers, leading to lower economic benefits from immigration. This is seen as difficult to achieve even if Europe were to borrow the STEM model. If someone has exceptional abilities and a brilliant mind, they would choose the US over Europe. From Einstein and John von Neumann to NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, and Elon Musk, all are immigrants. Even former US President Donald Trump's grandparents were German immigrants. The name of Trump's documentary on Netflix is also American Dream. However, the cause of declining productivity cannot solely be attributed to the issue of declining birth rates and an aging population. Europe's unique labor culture also contributes to the decline in productivity. Compared to the US, where labor flexibility is high, companies can relatively easily lay off employees when business becomes difficult. Many workers might feel job insecurity, but the advantage is that companies can quickly and boldly increase employment when the economy recovers. In contrast, in Europe, where social democracy is strong and labor unions have significant influence, it is not easy to reduce employment even when the economy is bad. Thus, it is difficult to escape economic crises, and even when the economy improves, companies are reluctant to increase employment, anticipating future downturns. This is why there is an analysis that Europe's economic downturn began due to structural reasons such as low productivity and rigid labor relations. Moreover, the preference of European workers for more leisure time and job stability over higher income also impacts economic stagnation. Naturally, from an individual's perspective, a life with a balanced work life is happier. Documentaries and papers on Europe's labor reality often highlight short working hours, high individual satisfaction and happiness, and increased work efficiency due to shorter working hours. This is not a false claim indeed, work efficiency does improve. However, to achieve economic growth, it is necessary to strive for minimal competitive atmosphere and creativity during leisure time to create high added value in a short time. It is only meaningful if it is in advanced industries. It is better for a skilled high-level talent to work for 3 hours than for a beginner to work for 10 hours. However, Europe has long focused on traditional manufacturing industries that require long working hours. Europeans appearing in documentaries seem to have escaped the pain of competition and appear happy. However, competition is the driving force behind human progress and the development of modern nations. This does not mean ignoring individual happiness for national development, but rather finding a balanced path between the two. As I mentioned earlier, it is not impossible if the majority of the country's industrial sectors are advanced high-value added industries. It is not simply a binary choice between individual happiness and national development. But looking at other factors, economy, industry, population structure, etc., together and applying responses suitable for each country, Europe has lagged because it has focused on manufacturing. In fact, most experts analyze that Europe's economic stagnation is also due to neglecting advanced IT fields. Since the early 2000s, the US, based on capital markets such as venture capital, created an environment where innovative unicorn companies could emerge, leading to the rise of big tech companies like Apple and Google and actively investing in new technologies. As a result, the US now holds a global advantage in cutting-edge fields such as AI and autonomous driving. With the concentration of individuals who develop technologies and possess genius ideas, all converging in the United States, it can be said that all the advancements in human progress and future technologies are being developed in America. Even if new technologies emerge from other countries, they cannot avoid passing through America, the world's largest consumer market. Meanwhile, Europe has been unable to formulate effective measures against this trend, and continues to rely heavily on tourism and traditional manufacturing industries. Europe has been able to earn significant income from historical sites and tourist attractions passed down from previous generations, leading to the criticism that they have lacked policies and efforts to nurture advanced industries. In 2000, European countries set a goal at the European Council in Lisbon, Portugal, to become the world's most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economy by 2010. However, as mentioned earlier, Europe today has become a digital colony of the United States. There are hardly any notable European companies in the IT field, and European companies are virtually absent in the search engine business, which forms the basis of the ICT industry. Thus, Europe is already one step behind in advanced fields. High-value talents such as singers and actors also work in America once they become famous. This ties back to the earlier discussion on competition. There is analysis suggesting that Europe's education system, which aims for welfare and equality, has ultimately weakened Europe's technological and economic power. Gideon Rachman, a columnist for the Financial Times, stated in the Weekly Biz that the fact that the top 7 tech companies are in America reflects the robust talent pipeline between American universities and startups. While it is said that annual tuition fees for private universities in the US are quite high. This means that schools have substantial funds, allowing for significant investment in facilities, talent acquisition, and research and development, thereby creating an environment conducive to efficiently nurturing the talent needed for new industries. In contrast, most European schools emphasize welfare and equality in higher education. In Germany and France, except for some specialized higher education institutions, universities are standardized, allowing students to attend their desired universities with almost free tuition, without the burden of debt. However, this has the drawback of lagging in nurturing competitiveness and excellent minds. In fact, 19 out of the top 30 universities in the world are American, while only 7 European universities, including 5 in the UK, make it to the list. After Brexit, among EU member state universities, only the Technical University of Munich ranks within the top 30, at the 30th position. The fact that Europe emphasizes equality and welfare, and is easy to live in, means high taxes, which is another reason Europe has become poorer. Accelerated aging in Europe has increased the cost of supporting the elderly. The number of elderly people aged 65 and above per 100 people aged 20 to 64 is 40.5 in Germany, 40.2 in Italy, 37.8 in France, and 38.6 in the UK, all very high compared to the US, which stands at about 30.4. Furthermore, the national burden ratio, which measures the percentage of taxes and social insurance premiums relative to GDP, was 26.6% for the US in 2021, compared to 45.1% in France. The more money individuals give to the country, the less surplus they have. Naturally, as one earns more, taxes increase, which also diminishes the competitive spirit. Additionally, the reduction in personal spending leads to decreased consumption awareness. No matter how much the state spends money for the citizens and the economy, there is inherent inefficiency in government execution. Furthermore, with low growth and rising interest rates, the welfare burden on European countries has increased, and inflation has rendered government subsidies meaningless. In summary, the reasons Europe has become poorer are the decline in productivity due to aging, the failure of immigration policies, Europe's unique labor culture that emphasizes work-life balance, the lack of proactive investment in new technologies leading to the absence of IT companies, the weakened competitiveness resulting in the absence of talent, and the welfare burden on the younger generation due to aging. These combined factors have manifested in Europe's impoverishment. This concludes the discussion on why Europe has become poorer. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.